This is Johnatan Galea. I know Johnatan from projects that we did together. We met also, we spoke also together. Where was
Budapest?
it? Budapest.
Yes.
Yeah, in Budapest and also Bucharest. And we did interesting projects together. I can tell you first of all about Johnatan. Johnatan Galea is also from NetEnt. He's the legal advisor of NetEnt. NetEnt is a very interesting platform for gaming. But the projects that we did together is on the private sector. He's also a legal advisor, and he takes care of very interesting ICOs.
That's correct.
He's also the president of Bit Malta, which is it's a non-for-profit. Imagine, we hear all about money, and this is a non-for-profit organization based in Malta dealing with bitcoins and cryptocurrencies. And this is Johnatan Galea. And I'm Tal Ron. Those who do not know me yet, I'm from Tel Aviv. I'm here with my colleague Mayan Dana also, a lawyer from Tel Aviv. We have 11 lawyers in Tel Aviv, and we do only stuff that are interesting us. Means that we don't do really real estate law and torts law, and people are taking care of ambulances or corporate on the you know, let's say on the more conventional way. We are dealing mostly with stuff that interests us, and I believe that interests most of the people here. So we do Forex, and we do gaming, and we do crypto, and basically we do a bit of, I don't like to say that, adult entertainment. You know that term? It's very interesting, you know, wash term. But people are doing in that business. No, I'm not an actor, you know. But people may think, but you know, but after this one, I cannot, you know. But yeah, so yeah, we do stuff that are interesting us, and this is our specialization. So with no further delay, that's me, and I'll be happy to speak with my friend Johnatan. That's me. This is Johnatan. Nice pictures, like fake news. You know, it looks like, I don't know. It doesn't look really similar. Johnatan looks really similar.
Yeah,
but
although in black and white.
This is me. It should be me. And with no further delay, let's start. We have lots of interesting topics, and our presentation today is on the legal approach. Hopefully that it will be effective, and it will close you a few of the thoughts that you had. So let's start with our first point and our first point of discussion. I didn't take a translator for me, so if someone says it's too fast, just tell me, and I will happy to make it more slower. Johnatan speaks, you know, more serious, so it's good. Opening a crypto exchange, legal aspects of the different structures. So when I saw many of the people downstairs in the exhibition floor, I felt I met today even 6 or 7 people who I didn't met before, who are all interested in one simple thing: how to open a crypto exchange. And crypto exchange, there are few different types of crypto exchange. Johnatan will explain what we're speaking about, and then I will give my added input.
Yep.
Johnatan.
So first of all, how many of you here have used an exchange to buy cryptocurrencies? Be it Bitcoin or other cryptocurrencies, raise your hand. How many? Yeah, okay, so a majority of the audience. So right now there are two dominant types of exchanges. You have the OTC exchange, the over-the-counter exchange, where basically you can buy the cryptocurrency directly from the persons running the exchange. And then you have what I call the matchmaking exchanges, basically where buyers and sellers meet on the platform, and they basically run the order books themselves. So according to the demand and supply, then the price is, let's say, it's set accordingly. So far we've been dealing with those two main types of exchanges. And now we're also seeing a new type of exchange coming into play, which is basically the decentralized exchange, the peer-to-peer exchange, where there's no central, let's say, authority, let's call it that, which is running the exchange, but basically the sellers and the buyers are interacting directly with each other in real time, without, of course, the intervention of any other third parties. So far, we've been seeing most of these exchanges operating in a legal vacuum. Okay, they've been running their operations without a license. They say they don't need a license to run such an exchange. But for example, when it comes to OTC exchanges, that question might perhaps arise whether they actually need a license or not, because they're actually providing the service themselves. However, and that's the trend we're currently starting to see, regulation will come sooner or later. So in fact, we're seeing some exchanges setting themselves up in Hong Kong, for example. We saw
Hong Kong is one of the leaders there. Bitfinex, very interesting company, registered in Hong Kong, even though the operation, the practical operation is in Taiwan. They are registered in Hong Kong. Very interesting. I would relate to what actually Johnatan said, is there actually another type of exchange, what I believe also some of the people are interested in the same situation. They want to be a market maker. They come from the Forex and the binary options businesses, and they want to do and to work on the same fashion. And I will explain. They open a Marshall Island company or a company registered offshore, and then they receive funds either through dollar or euro or via bitcoins, but more popular is actually through dollar or euro or pound, as they did in the Forex and the CFD. The money is invested in these currencies, in bitcoins or in Ethereum, on the system, okay? And they are using Panda or using such of the other providers. And at the end of the day, when the client wins, they pay him in dollar or euro. When the client loses, they pocket the funds. Now, this is very popular, okay? And this is actually swaps what happened in the Forex business. Of course, what is very important here to understand that this is very vague on the legal point of view. Okay, people think that if we did it in Forex, we can now do it in crypto. Let's do it with a Marshall Island company. Let's do a Estonian company. That's it. Cut and paste. Let's do it. It's not that simple. Can you please explain what is self-regulation? Why I like this name?
Yes. So as I said first, so far there's a legal vacuum in this area. So what most businesses are doing nowadays is they say, listen, regulation will come sooner or later, and we want to be prepared when that actually happens. So what's happening right now? Self-regulation is coming into play. No, we're sort of coming out of what I like to call the wild, wild west, and we're starting seeing more, let's say, legitimate players entering the sector. And in order for these new players to gain reputation, they want to show to the rest of the world that they're doing everything according to their own book. It might be a good book, might not be a good book. But certain measures such as KYC, AML, certain measures to protect the investors and so on are already in place, even though very few countries have issued any sort of regulation whatsoever. So we're starting to see this very, very curious phenomenon taking place, so that when actual regulation comes into play, then these businesses which are already in self-regulation, they won't have such a big jump, if any jump at all, to adhere to the regulations at the time.
Exactly. Now, I want to add, I'm very, very fond of self-regulation. I know not everybody likes that. People say we're unregulated. We do not take unregulated structures in our business. We either take proper regulation, and that can be regulation in Europe and regulation outside of Europe, or self-regulation, and I will explain. Self-regulation is not unregulated, is regulation, exactly as Johnatan said, with proper AML measures and proper KYC measures. It means that if someone puts a deposit, yes, we need to certify him and to see and make sure that the same guy is actually using his card. It's not someone stolen his identity. This is very much important because we're now in a vague and a very interim period. I think that in the last 6 months, we got 20 new clients who are exchanged, and they do exactly opening. Some of them are very, very successful. Now, all of them are working under a certain framework. So we prepare for them a declaration of deposit, and we prepare for them terms and conditions. Of course, not all of them have the same technology and have the same properties and are working with the same PSPs. But at the end of the day, all of them needs to work in a very structurized way. Now, because we're now in the gray area, people need to make sure that they put themselves in the position that if someone will complain, they'll be in the best positioning. Now, it's not black or white. And if someone has a doubt, I always tell him, if there is a doubt, no doubts. So if a client is complaining, it's make sure everybody is getting paid. Make sure you don't screw the clients. You know, in the binary options, it was so easy to take an industry and just throw it into the bathtub, because there were lots of fraudsters. There were people who took the binary options and used it to do a very illegitimate practices. Here in crypto, I really hope that it won't be the same, that people will make money and legit.
Tal, since you're the guru on FX and CFD brokerage, I'd like to ask you a question. Do you see such a big jump between these two sectors and crypto? I mean, are there any differences, and what challenges do you see in this shift, perhaps?
Well, it's amazing. I see such a big jump. It looks to me now the really logic of the progress, okay? I see people, first of all, you know, in Israel, the binary options law has been enacted, and now until the end of the year, early 2018, you cannot do binary from Israel. Now, people are very conservative and ask me even, look, if I'm moving to Bulgaria or if I'm moving to Belgrade, can I do binary from there? Well, actually, the law is very interesting because I'm not sure how can you interpret it if you're a Jewish guy, which originally from Israel, but you moved outside of Israel to run a binary brokerage in Belgrade. If the law, I tell them, listen, if there is a doubt, there is no doubt. Don't touch binary. I think that once the law got inside Israel, it's not a good thing. Really, pay your clients the funds, close your business, go to the next level. Now, exactly as you said, yes, I really see people moving from FX and CFD. Some of them are opening a brand, a similar brand, which is actually, sorry, not similar, a different brand, which is on the crypto. And some of them take their FX and CFD established brand and put inside the crypto inside. So you can either put it in together and then, offer together, or do it on similar brands. But yes, I see that people which target, let's say, Arab countries, GCC countries, basically with MetaTrader and Forex, like the tried and tested way, all of them are now opening either new brands or adding also crypto, Ethereum, because it gives lots of excitement to the clients. The most important thing is to do it in the legal way, to be trustworthy and be decent with the clients. That is the most important thing when you do that.
Yep. Very good answer.
You're an expert on smart contracts. You know that we were there with Zoltan. What's the name of that conference where you spoke about?
The Central Eastern European Gaming Conference.
The Central and Eastern European Gaming Congress and you were speaking there in a lecture about the smart contracts, and it was really fascinating to see how smart contracts and bitcoins can get into actually the classical gambling industries. What do you think about that?
Yes, so I mean, just a very, very brief overview for those who don't know about smart contracts. But basically, they're pieces of code which allow you to establish, let's say, a direct relationship between one person and another. So, for example, I will mention a very, very perhaps stupid example, but you'll get the gist. So, for example, I want to sell you a bottle of water, right? And you live in Israel. You live in lovely Israel. And I want your bottle of water to be delivered to me, okay? So what we do is enter into a smart contract, whereby basically you say, okay, I'm going to deliver the bottle of water to you. I'm going to put the tracking number in the smart contract. Fine, tell you, okay, I'll pay you the price only when I receive the bottle of water. Otherwise, I'll get screwed. So I put the price in the smart contract, and then the smart contract will basically receive information on whether the tracking number has been received or not, on whether it has been delivered or not. As soon as the smart contract receives information that the bottle has been delivered to me, it will automatically release the funds to Tal. And that's it. That's a transaction which is made without any sort of middleman. Now, of course, in iGaming, I would say that the blockchain technology is that technology which iGaming has been waiting for all along. There has been various problems such as holding player funds, provably fair games, refunds, fraud, and so on. And the blockchain technology is the technology which will benefit the iGaming industry hugely. So what can smart contracts do, for example? So just in the same way as I mentioned that you can put, let's say, tracking number and funds in a smart contract, you can, for example, put two what are called seeds in the smart contract. Now, seeds are just random numbers from the operator and from the player, right? So whereas in the past we used to have the operator, well, in the present as well, the operator who is dictating, let's say, the random number which is assigned to you during a game round, now the player actually has a say when it comes to game rounds because he will be contributing part of that random number himself. How? Both of them input these random numbers, as I said. There's a complex function which is called a hash. These two numbers are basically hashed together, and a completely new random number comes out. It is provably fair because then you can check the algorithm and check that the random number has actually come out of these two numbers submitted by the operator and the player. That's just one aspect. Secondly, we also have the fact that these smart contracts can also hold the player funds. So there's no need now for the operator to hold the funds. The smart contract can actually hold the funds in this case as well.
Look at the trust that what Johnatan says is now reaching. Look, it's not Forex, it's not binary, it's not even crypto and the exchange. But he's speaking about something which is amazing and disruptive that we need to understand what dramatic change it can do to the gaming industry. If we're speaking about a classic way where you have a pool betting, and everybody's paying into a pool, and then if someone wins, we take everything that is paid. When we are using smart contracts and we're doing this shared liquidity, it's amazing because at the end of the day, there is no middleman, theoretically. Of course, the operator will need to find some way of other getting profit here, but it's amazing because you don't need to, there is no one who is actually holding your money, and it's all automatically in all very,
And since we're at an affiliate conference, this can also benefit affiliates as well, because you don't, for example, need to ask for a payment up front.
Exactly.
Let's say that you need to direct a certain amount of traffic. How do you do that? You enter into a smart contract as well. You have a certain amount of traffic which needs to be sent. As soon as you reach that particular milestone, the funds will be given to you. So thereby you're placing more trust in your clients as well, who don't need to pay you up front, for example. So again, I mean, the case uses for the blockchain technology and smart contracts, we're still just scratching the surface at this stage.
Great. How can affiliate and brokers protect themselves in the provision of their services?
Right, so up to me as well, I guess. Let's open and dance on this one as well. So again, it's very, very important to keep in mind that this is a very, very new sector still. Bitcoin has been around since 2008, and the first block was mined in 2009. But that doesn't mean that we still know how all this will play out. So it's very important to keep in mind that with every new sector, there will always be new players. And let's face it, it's always risky to do business with someone who you don't actually know in a new sector. So
in the ICOs, look, we saw a really nice presentation now, the one in Russian, which is translated to English, and it was great. But at the end of the day, we all need to trust what we see. And there are lots of ICOs that are very successful, and there are lots of ICOs which are fraudulent from A to Z. Now the same goes with doing now business. If you're sending traffic and you're sending traffic which is not trustworthy, there are lots of issues now between affiliates and brokers and people who do not pay, or people who do not pay some with purpose and now without purpose. Theoretically, if you're all doing now everything through the smart contracts, it should reduce some of this, but it will not eliminate it completely.
And in fact, one phenomenon which we're also seeing is the emergence of multi-level marketing in ICOs
MLM.
and in other cryptocurrency projects as well. So again, that's a bit risky because the line between MLM and pyramid schemes is very, very thin indeed. And in fact, in most of these, let's say, crypto communities, as soon as they see something which is affiliated with MLM, they will steer off it and they will call it a scam straight away. So that's one of the things which you need to keep in mind when providing your service as well. Try to keep it single level if possible. If not, check what actually included in this system and make sure that it is legit.
Exactly. What is this stuff? What is the notice of financial activities? Okay, that's another very interesting stuff, which is in Estonia. Now, as maybe people here know, but there are lots of interesting places where you actually operate a cryptocurrency venture. One of them is Gibraltar, which has very, very, very interesting regime, which is in some ways, people who are going on the Gibraltar approach should do it really in the next, until the end of 2017, in order to get some certain advantages. Gib is something very, very popular.
Small place, big heart.
Yeah, it's very, 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 exactly. And there's another place, Estonia, which is also very interesting. In Estonia, there's something which is called the Notice of Financial Activities. Our office in Estonia is very, very now flooded with requests of this. And it's interesting because theoretically you can get something which is like an exchange. It's not exchange in the Bitcoin sense, but it's like an exchange in a more classical way. And it is used under certain legal opinions also for self-regulation, also for proper regulation. And they're very interesting, also Malta. You come from Malta. Yeah,
I was waiting for you to mention Malta. I was just like, okay, he's going to mention Malta now. So, yes, first of all, the Maltese government is very, very intent on, let's say, embracing blockchain startups in general, including ICOs. So the Prime Minister has made that statement twice already. The framework is being built, and the authorities are all coming together to actually provide a holistic, let's say, position on all this. So initially there was the Malta Financial Services Authority, which was a bit skeptical about all this, but now it's also, let's say, jumped on the bandwagon, and in fact it has issued a statement in relation to professional investment funds as well. So we're starting to see quite a significant shift in Malta as well in favor of financial activities as well.
It's amazing what's going on in Malta. They have the president, it's a female president, very, very, very charismatic. and we have Joseph Kushkeri from the MGA, the Maltese Gaming Authority, and Ivan Fileti from Gaming Malta. There's all people there who have in their mind, when they go to work, how to make Malta more attractive to all the interesting stuff. So what they did a few years ago, or even 10 years ago, when they started with the Maltese gambling regulation, online gambling regulation, now Malta became a standard de facto in gambling. If you put aside various regimes specific in Europe, Malta still is a very, very interesting and very popular region. Of course, you can take also a look at what's going on in Curaçao. But if you're looking at the more legit, let's say, places for operating, and I don't have anything about the Curaçao, but let's say if you're looking about the European places, where do you want to register? So Malta is still at the head of the pack. Probably they now want to be the same with social gaming, and they want to be the same with skill gaming and with fantasy sports.
Esports, yeah.
And esports, yeah, it's amazing. So Malta is a small and tiny island, those who haven't seen it yet. And like this year, there will be the Sigma there. It's for the third year in November. They do lots of very, very interesting stuff, which is good for the crypto and good for the industry at all. So how do BSPs and banks deal with Bitcoin? I'm sure that many of the people here ask themselves the same question or already faced problems. Because if you know, look, in Israel, there are a few case law where actually banks shut up accounts when the various funds came from Bitcoins. It's not only they come from binary options, which can be maybe arguably right or wrong. Bitcoins, you know, WTF, why Bitcoins is necessarily related to binary options or illegal gambling. But at the end of the day, banks in Israel thought and still think that Bitcoins and cryptocurrencies may be related and connected to money laundering and other problems. So at the end of the day, lots of banks has problems. What part of the solutions?
Yes, I agree. Again, most of these, I would say, larger banks, they are still very, very apprehensive about accepting clients who deal with cryptocurrencies. As soon as you tell them that you do gaming and you do cryptocurrencies, they almost start doing some sort of exercise for exorcism. You know, they just say, "No, go. We don't want to deal with you anymore." So yes, I guess the solution is twofold. First of all, there are some of the smaller banks who are actually quite, I would say, crypto-friendly. Of course, they do extra checks, extra due diligence on any businesses which deal with cryptocurrencies, but they are willing to help out if your business model is legitimate and has potential. So that's one thing. Secondly, I would say is basically a test of time. We still have to wait for regulation to come out, whereby basically we're hoping that these banks, which would actually be forced to deal with crypto clients, let's call them that, if the regulation in place is favorable. So in fact, in Malta, that's what we're hoping to see very, very soon. Already the MFSA has been swayed in favor of cryptocurrencies. Now it's time, I guess, for the big banks as well.
Yeah, it's very interesting to see the trend. And in Israel, when certain clients who dealt with cryptocurrency tried to force the bank to accept them based on freedom of banking and freedom of I don't know what, the court said that the bank has a legitimate right to decide which type of business they want. It's interesting that abroad, we already established really good relationship with few banks who are okay with this type of industries, which we work with them on a personal level. They don't get every client, but when we send them, normally it gets accepted. One of the banks is a bank in Luxembourg. Not many people know about them, Catella Bank. It's a small bank, a boutique bank in Luxembourg, but they do get gaming and in crypto under certain conditions. There are also standard banks, which is owned by South African investors, but they have very interesting and very friendly branches in Isle of Man, for instance, and they are very okay. There is Wirecard. People do not know that Wirecard is actually a bank. Okay, it's a company based in Germany. It's a public company, but they have a banking license. Now, under certain conditions and under certain legal opinions, Wirecard can open you a direct account, and we do it quite frequently at our firm. So you should know that there are solutions. It's not easy solutions. So people are thinking that, okay, it's cut and paste. We want this and that, and please open for me in Barclays Bank in London. Okay, it won't work. Barclays Bank in London will never, and doesn't matter how much you'll try, open a direct account for money transfers from clients who want to buy Bitcoins. It won't work. However, if you're willing to understand the ecosystem, there are even better alternatives. The last point is that point, a favorite of Mr. Johnatan.
Yes. So again, we've seen a sudden surge in ICOs, and currently I think we're seeing around 140 ICOs every month or so over the past 2 or 3 months. So that's a huge number. Now, of course, unfortunately, most of these ICOs, let's call them less than legitimate. So, for example, a couple of months ago, I saw an ICO for dentists. Yes, for dentists. So, I mean, I can't imagine what sort of concept they had in mind. I'm already in pain when I'm going to the dentist. The fact that he tells me that he accepts cryptocurrencies won't make you go from this to this, you know? So, again, just use some common sense when you're working, of course, with some ICOs. Some of the things you have to watch out for, the jurisdiction in which they're set up, that's very important. So, for example, if they're operating out of the US and they're offering, let's say, a profit-sharing voting rights and say, no, we're not a security, we're a token. We don't need any approval from the SEC. Run as fast as you can, because otherwise you might get into some pretty hot water. Look at the project itself, look at the team, look at the white paper. Again, avoid MLM. Just, of course, make sure that whatever services you provide to these ICOs, you're providing the service to the right ICOs. You have the luxury to choose your clients, because right now the demand far outweighs your supply. So make sure that you build your reputation by working with the best in the business, with the tier 1 customers.
I agree. I cannot agree more than what Johnatan now said. It all matter of testing, checking, smelling. You know, really with the smell. If something doesn't smell good,
your gut feeling, yes.
Your gut feeling, it's better than the smell. I work with the nose, you know, with smelling. But yeah, gut feeling is also better. Look, lots of opportunities, lots of people invested time, came from Russia, came from Israel, came from Ukraine, came from Prague, came from Dubai. I met people from all around the world here, from Germany, from Holland, and Russia, did I say. The thing is, there is potential here. There is potential here. You know, affiliates and brokers and exchange owners and every one of us can do lots of money here. But the idea here is to do it sensibly. Okay, we don't want this to be a Wild West. We don't want people to say, okay, this is unregulated. Let's work sensibly. Let's get the best legal advice. Let's work self-regulated. Let's open structures that we know that it will work and not throw it after 2 weeks because the bank closed the account. Okay, let's make sure that the clients are treated fairly, and that's it. And if you have any questions, we're here. I hope you enjoy the day. We have here food now, right?
There's food and there's a party tonight as well.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.